Inspired by the photographic library of the 1950s, the Heinz Endowments Downtown Now project produced an archive of compelling images made by outstanding Pittsburgh photographers from 2007 through 2010. Their primary mission was to document the dramatic changes taking place from the most significant public-private development in downtown Pittsburgh since the 1950s. A hoped-for result is that the collection will be a worthy contribution to the rich historical, journalistic, and artistic record of the city. Of the 3,000 images produced, 411 were selected for permanent archiving and a range of community uses.
When I first arrived, the challenge, to my understanding, was why the Heinz Endowments would take on a project, particularly a project of this magnitude and scope, which it would seem more normally it would relegate to a grantee. With the passage of time, I began to understand as I saw who was doing this work and what was being developed, and I began to more fully appreciate the power of the picture. And then you began to look at what these this collection of photography might represent 2, 5, 10, 50 years from now, and all of a sudden it became clear that it was wholly appropriate that the Heinz Endowments should take this on as a project in and of itself.
The original Stryker project that was done in the 50s was a 3-year effort to document all the changes happening in Pittsburgh, and to have that rich photographic history as a marker in time is great. It's how we see ourselves, we look back, we remember, and it's about the history and the change of the city. And so having this project 50 years later, time has passed, things have changed, it's another marker in time.
The changes are significant. The photographs reveal those changes, and I really believe that in many instances the audience for this project has not yet been born. I think in the year 2050, the photographs that are being made today will be even more interesting to those audiences than they are for the people who will see them now.
This project is not about a single theme. The themes ran from Mr. Heinz's original intention to develop downtown, the economic development effort that goes along with that, his focus on place, and not only place as it affects people, but of course his focus on people and how people affect place. Another important thing to the Heinz Endowments is that this photography is not only chronicling history, but it's also a work and a collection of works of art.
I'm Melissa Farlow. I'm a documentary photographer, and I've been working in Pittsburgh for 25 years or so. My assignment for the Heinz Endowments was to photograph Point Park, the Mon Wharf, and the riverfront trails and the area on the north side. So I spent a lot of time walking around, watching people jogging and biking and kayaking on the river, and that's something you wouldn't have seen 25 years ago when I first got here.
My name is Jim Judkis. I'm an independent photographer. I've been freelancing for 34 years. So I chose to go back to film, black and white film. To me that feels like history, it looks like history. And when I go out and shoot with it, it just felt real to me.
Hi, my name is Richard Kelly. I'm a professional photographer. I live in Pittsburgh. I've been here since 1993. And I think it's a wonderful city to photograph, Pittsburgh, and also the people. There's such a diversity, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. And what I love about photographing Pittsburgh is getting a chance to interact with those people in their environment.
Growing up in the city on the north side, a lot of the photos that I actually created were not too far from where I grew up at. So that's significant because I know what the city used to be like years ago when I grew up, what it was, you know, as an adult and what it's becoming. So I think that's significant as well, just to see it change in front of my eyes.
The way I got into photojournalism is a story that I love. I had an assignment that in a class we could photograph anything we wanted. And I was the only person out of 20 people that came back with a picture of people. Everybody else came back with pictures of leaves and water and landscapes, and I came back with pictures from JFK Airport. And the professor asked, why did you do that? And I didn't even know. I just thought that'd be an interesting thing to photograph.
I've been really fortunate to have grown up in this area and been able to start making photographs here in 1972. So I've had 40 years to be fascinated by Pittsburgh. I just think it's endlessly interesting in the way it continually transforms itself in small and big ways, and the way it supports the complicated neighborhoods and social network that surrounds it.
I have considered myself to be a street photographer for 30 years. When I was a student at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh is really where I fell in love with street photography, and I continued to do it. And then I became a newspaper photographer, which I was for 20 years. And now as an independent, I still love, my favorite photographs are the ones I can make out on the street. And I really love watching how people interact with each other, and I love how their communities shape them and the impact that environment has on them as well.
I've been a professional photographer and videographer here in Pittsburgh for the last 10 years. Before that, I did corporate marketing for about 15 years or so. But the thing that I absolutely love about my job is that I have access and invitation to people's lives that I wouldn't normally, be allowed to enter into.
Dylan Vitone, documentary photographer. I teach in the School of Design at Carnegie Mellon University. Been photographing for about the past 15 years. Moved to Pittsburgh about 7 years ago from Boston, originally from Austin, Texas. First year I did Point Park University, and I think that, over the course of shooting, they were buying up a whole lot of property, and they're going to have an amazing campus 10 years down the road. And so it was pretty interesting to see all these kind of dilapidated buildings being bought up with kind of you could see their plan kind of unfolding, what it's going to look like in 20 years. So I think Point Park University is going to be amazing in a few years.
If you look at Pittsburgh's industrial past, and you see photographs from other eras, you see steel mills and the railroads and warehouses, and it's not a city that was very friendly to people. People didn't think of being down on the river and the open space that we have here today. People are sort of taking back this part of Pittsburgh that's very special. The spaces are being replanned, they're being rethought, the parks are being replanted, and you see people downtown using the rivers, the walkways, something you didn't see 25 years ago.
G20 was an interesting experience. It was so much fun to spend a couple days just wandering around downtown and the streets devoid of cars. You could walk anywhere, people out everywhere talking to each other. It was like the city took a chill pill. Everyone was really friendly on the street, and yet all the security was just amazing to see. It was kind of overkill with security, but it was very visually interesting.
When I was at the August Wilson Center photographing some of the construction, you could tell how the people that are working on it were very proud. They were proud at the grand staircase and the amazing wood that's throughout the building, the rehearsal space. That alone is beautiful. Went to a party there that people were really enjoying themselves.
Market Square, in the way it's changed, it now orients itself towards us and not towards buses and cars and traffic. So there's just a wonderful kind of re-emphasis and rebalance to what a square is all about. And a square in a city, it's just such an incredible, wonderful resource to think about. A market square, that's something all cities don't have, and we have a wonderful one. And now it's taken back some of the energy that I think it had in its beginnings. So I think that's just so damn good for a city to have and to honor and to support.
I think more people come downtown now. I think it's a lot more diverse, young and old. Older people are interested in seeing what's happened. So especially for Light Up Night, when they had thousands of people, I saw it was really, really diverse, from suburban kids to city kids to grandmothers. to people who stayed downtown after work, and that was really exciting to see. It seemed like it was just a great representation of Pittsburgh.
One of the things that I thought was pretty neat was the way that technology is working its way into a really old landscape. I mean, we have people on cell phones and with these tiny little consumer cameras that everybody has, in the middle of a really old city.
Well, what I think is really interesting about the development of the 3 PNC Tower is that they included this public space, this green space in the forefront, right outside the entrance. And I think we're going to see people congregate there. It's only a block off of Market Square, but it's another place for people to sort of sit and sort of enjoy the landscape, the urban landscape of Pittsburgh. And it's unique because it's right in the middle of the canyon of Fifth Avenue and Liberty Avenues.
I've seen the works of Claude Hare and Teenie Harris. If you look at some of the photos, you can see what people, how people dressed, how construction was done. PNC Park may be here for another 20 years, and by the time we're looking at our photos, there may be another stadium. So it's just interesting to be a part of history and have people actually look at the works that you've done compared to the works that Teenie Harris and Claude Hare shot years ago.
So one of my assignments was covering the park over on 2nd Avenue. I think the future of the park is that it will influence other spaces throughout the city. I think that that's the bar that people are going to want to reach, that to have a space with all those elements to it.
Well, I wish I could have more time photographing here in Market Square because it really just reopened a few months ago, and I think that even the more years it's going to become more of your typical plaza that you would find in Europe, where people gather here all times of the day and all kinds of people, and enjoying food and drink and music.
I see downtown as becoming a really cool mix of technology and old architecture, and I'm just loving how, the next generation of entrepreneurs is, taking their ideas into the old buildings and making it something insanely cool.
It's going to be a little slower than I thought it was going to be, but the new Penguin Stadium, the new Consol Energy Stadium, is going to change that whole block there. That block wasn't a particularly nice block. There was a couple of really nice businesses, like the pawn shop that I photographed, the antique shop that I photographed. Those guys were absolutely amazingly wonderful. I've been there for a lot of years, but a lot of the buildings, a lot of the businesses around them weren't quite as nice.
I think it is absolutely incumbent upon us to take these photographs and make sure that they are in constant circulation. Part of it may again be in the schoolroom, where kids can see how you change a city, what it means to be green, what the hope and the future for the city is. When we pass change going on day after day after day, we see it, but it's invisible to us. But with this collection of work, it will remind us just what it is we have been witness to over the course of the last several years. So I hope that we use it in a proactive way, making it available to the public at large, for people, as I say, around the country or around the world who are interested in change, urban change, but also to that person who has a keen eye and really appreciates the work of artists, the local photographers who have been responsible for this photography.